All right, welcome to another Sovereign Mind experience. And I'd love to get us started with a state change, drop it into the body, opening up the heart. And so I invite you to join me with a few intentional yawns. So stretching arms out overhead and just letting one rip.
On the exhale, just let go. Ugh.
Wow, that was a big one for me. Do a couple more after that.
At your own pace, no rush. Ugh.
And third time's a charm, just one nice stretch overhead. All right. So, at a fundamental level, the purpose of these calls is to train up on the sovereign mind method and to provide love and support for one another as we let go of old beliefs and identities that no longer serve us. And it's interesting, Lewis, I know you got a call coming up in like 27 minutes,
Yeah,
but you just witnessed the process
right.
not too long ago. And so you've seen how quick these can be. I wonder if you'd like to be our volunteer for today. I know I'm
Sure.
calling you out or whatever, but
Sure. Let's do it, man.
so I'm really curious, when you were doing the sentence completions, did anything come up for you that might make sense to let go of?
Yes, I think um there's a lot, but it all revolved around that idea of like self-worth or feeling ready, feeling capable,
Yeah.
um, good enough type things. So it would be around that.
Awesome. All right. Well, this is my jam, and this is what I love to help with the most, because these
Mm,
exact beliefs that you just outlined were most impactful for me when I let them go.
gotcha.
So, are you open to trying out the sense test and just speaking them and noticing how it feels to say a few of these things?
Yeah, of course.
Cool, man. Let's start with nonsense. So, what happens if you say, I'm a squiggly flashlight?
I'm a squiggly flashlight. Nothing.
Chuckle, smile, yeah. What about I am 687,102?
Whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah, nothing there.
yeah, it's nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay. And from a place of just neutral curiosity, what happens if you say, I am not capable?
I am not capable. Yeah, I start to almost like buy into it or like look for reasons why that's true.
Yeah. So you start looking for reasons why that's true, start to buy into it. Is there any feeling or sensation that you notice in the body when you say it?
Yeah, a little bit of tightness or a little bit of like, yeah, kind of like kind of clamping up or like tension. Yeah,
There you
tension,
go.
resistance.
Tension, resistance, contraction is another.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like holding back, like protection.
What happens if we change the language a little bit and we try, I can't do it?
I can't do it. What's interesting about that one is sometimes I like to like be a contrarian, so that one makes me feel like a rebel. Like no, like there has to be a way, right? So
Yeah.
that one actually makes me feel a little bit more open, like challenging that.
Mhm. And so
Hmm.
there's a sense of rebellion, a sense
Yeah.
of like, nah. Okay.
Yeah, like pushing against, like almost empowering me to like defy that.
Yeah. And isn't that interesting? Two totally different responses
Yeah.
to very different beliefs.
Yeah.
I am not capable is a really potent one to let go of for a lot of people. And I wonder if that's something that you'd like to try. Would you like to let that go?
Absolutely.
All right. Heaven, yes. Great.
Yes.
So We always process the belief first logically, then visually, and then emotionally. And
Okay.
so the first question I love to ask is, Lewis, really just check in with yourself. Is there any part of you that's not totally ready to let that go for any reason?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I would say like that part of me that used to be kind of like that shy person, like more reserved, like more introverted, like that part of me, I would say.
And can we welcome that part with some curiosity and some love? Because that part created this belief long ago with a purpose. We love that part.
Mm,
And is it
yeah.
okay if we just ask it some questions, try to understand it?
Yeah, for sure.
Beautiful. Thank you. The first question I love to ask is, why is it important that Lewis hold on to this belief of I am not capable?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that comes up is it can help us like keep our head above water instead of like trying to do too much or like expose yourself to risk. And it kind of it feels like a safe place. Like it's not bad, but it's also not good. It's just like maintaining that status quo of like, okay, like we made it this far. Let's not bring too much attention to ourselves because if we do, then what like the what ifs come about. Like, well, what if like you fail, or what if you something happens, you know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So tell me if I've got this right. The belief I'm not capable helps create a sense of safety, and it prevents you from really like overloading your plate
Yeah.
with things that could expose you to a risk of failure, and
Mm,
possibly a risk of other things. Who knows what
yeah.
else it's tied to, rejection, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, rejection, like looking like a fool. Um, yeah, like yeah, looking goofy, looking, like just some like yeah, the opposite of safe.
Yeah. And so, really, just thank this part of you for coming up with this strategy to prevent you from feeling rejected, prevent you from feeling like failure, and just help you be safe.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
wonder if this part might be open to the possibility that a lot of things have changed in your life since that belief was created. For example, you've actually created
Yeah.
yourself as and became the kind of man who's holding down a really good, steady position for yourself. You're raising a family.
Yeah.
You've actually created quite a lot of safety through your
Mm,
relationships, through your partnership, through your family, through your work. Can this part
yeah.
see now that there's no longer that
Yeah.
same existential risk of non-safety that there once was?
Yeah. I get chills thinking about it. It's like, wow, yeah. It's almost like a growing up that like an acknowledgement of like we're growing up, or like we've grown up, or like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
already happened. Like we
yeah,
we woke up one day and it's like, whoa, actually, yeah, that's right. Like I'm grown up, or like, yeah, that's true. Like
yeah,
all these things have occurred.
yeah.
Mhm.
And with that awareness in mind, I wonder, could this part also see that by believing that we're not capable now, although it was helpful as a strategy at one point, believing that you're not capable makes the amount of work that you're doing feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's it's the cause of that sense of contraction. It's the cause of that fear. Can this
Hmm.
part see that today that that belief actually causes the feeling of non-safety?
Yeah, I think it's trying to wrap its mind around it, but to some extent, yeah, like it's a cycle to some extent. Like, yeah, just things stagnant. It feels like that, like stagnant, like not really progressing or wanting to progress, or just like, yeah, remaining the same.
Yeah. I wonder if this part would be open to the possibility that without that belief in the way, that you'd be able to make more progress towards whatever it is that you wanted to.
Yeah.
You'd be able to create more abundance, you'd be able to create more safety, you'd be able to create from a place of feeling actually capable deep down inside.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, what I envisioned was this kind of like a letting go, like two hands going like this, like
Oh, yeah, cool.
yeah, like being okay with like, all right, like I'm gonna let you go, like
Love it.
mm,
So, with all of this in mind, I wonder, is this part now open to letting go of the belief
hmm,
I am not capable?
yes, yes.
Oh, I'll just thank him. That's really special. I appreciate him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And always, always, folks, these parts they have real, sincere, loving intentions. They created the belief for a specific purpose. We've outgrown that purpose, and it's just a practice of updating that part. Hey, we don't actually need this anymore. It's safe to let go. And then just asking the part, hey, dude, can we let it go?
Right. Wow. Yeah. I
And so
felt that one.
just totally, and just notice how the belief feels now that you're actually ready to let it go.
Hmm. Yeah.
Slightly
Yeah.
different
It al-
state.
yeah. It almost doesn't make sense anymore. Like, yeah.
And that's the difference between having a subconscious reason to hold on and having just pure readiness to let go.
Mm, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now we can move to process it visually and then we can process it emotionally. And so you've kind of already got a sneak preview. You understand that it's not possible to literally see that you're not capable.
Mm,
We see experiences when we're young,
yeah.
we see the things that happen. And just because those things happened all the way back then does not mean I'm not capable, right?
Hmm.
So I invite you to look back through your memories. Did you ever truly see the belief in three-dimensional space, I am not capable?
No, no, I've seen places where I've kind of fallen flat on my face or it felt like it, but I've never seen like that belief for sure.
Are you sure?
Yeah, yeah, I've never seen that belief.
Oh, okay. Great. Excellent. But you do say that at some point you felt not capable. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is my favorite illusion to break because what's always, always, always true is that you felt feelings. And just because you felt feelings didn't mean that you're not capable.
Hmm. Wow. I feel that one.
Yeah.
Chills, literally chills. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
And so here's the real magic trick. Just bring up the actual sensation, bring up the feeling of not capable in your awareness and connect with it. And just let me know when you're with it.
Yeah.
And with your attention placed on the sensation itself, just ask yourself the question: does this sensation mean I am not capable?
No, it doesn't. It just means I was feeling that way in that moment.
Right. You had a feeling.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And now does that feeling feel disconnected from I am not capable.
Yeah. It almost feels silly, kind of.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Wow. Yeah.
All right, Lewis. So now search within yourself again. Did you ever feel not capable at any point in your life? If so, what does that feel like?
Yeah, I have. I mean, it's like when there's that feeling of like running into a wall, like the same wall again and again and again. But what it feels like, it's almost like, well, what if you put a ladder there and try to go above the wall? Or like, well, what if you find a way to go around the wall? Like it just it's more solution. I feel like it's more solution. It triggers more of a solution state versus a panic like, oh my goodness, like it's not working, like just going into
Yeah.
a deep in a downward spiral. Now it's more like, oh, okay, you're running into that wall. Like, have you thought about getting a ladder? Like it's almost again silly type. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what I'm hearing. There's still a sensation that's tied to it that to you feels like you're running into the same wall again and again. So I invite you to connect with that sensation.
Mm,
The I am not capable running into a wall again and again.
yeah.
Where do you feel that in your body?
Mm, partially like in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the question is, does this sensation mean I am not capable?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it just means that it's like I'm just feeling it.
Yeah. Here's
Yeah.
a question. Did you feel not capable or did you feel a sensation in your head?
Yeah, I felt a sensation in my head.
And so now I ask the question again. At any point in your entire life, have you ever felt not capable? And if so, what does that feel like?
Oh, no, I think it's just an emotion that came up.
Yeah, that's what it always is, brother.
Mm, wow. Yeah.
So now what happens? Just see if there's any energy, any contraction at all still tied to I am not capable when you say it out loud.
I am not capable. No, it's almost like right away, instantly, like, well, why not? Or like, how it's kind of like that rebel side of me now. It's like, well, why not? Or how come? Or, huh? Like, where, like, it's almost like instantly doubting the doubt.
This is interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Can I try something a little more advanced with you?
Sure.
So go ahead and instruct your subconscious mind to show any energy that's still tied to the belief by using the following phrase. And so I invite my clients to speak this out loud. Show all energy tied to the belief I am not capable.
Show all energy tied to the belief that I am not capable.
Notice anything?
Yeah. I guess
Where's,
just go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you what are you feeling and where in the body?
Yeah, I think if anything, it's just seeing like maybe murky waters, or it's less about not capable and it's almost like lacking clarity, which causes me to feel that I'm not capable, but
Yeah.
it's I'm just not clear about because it's like the water's a little bit muddy, so I'm not sure like what's beneath the surface.
So let's try a couple things. What happens if you say out loud, I am not clear?
I am not clear. Yeah, I can resonate with that. I'm not clear. Yeah, it feels a little bit deflating, like agreeing with it, like, yeah, you're not, you know,
Mm.
like almost sadness, a little bit of sadness. Like I feel like I should be clear.
Yeah, yeah. And so those
Judging
two
myself.
those two beliefs live in polarity with one another. I'm not
Mm,
clear and I should be clear. And the I should be clear is kind of like the strategy to compensate for the I am not clear.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
And if I'm not clear, then it means I'm not capable.
yeah, yeah. I feel that.
Yeah. And so this is why it's really important to continue doing belief work beyond just one
Mhm.
belief. It's never a one and done thing. We have very intricate belief systems in the mind, and these things are linked together, right?
That's true.
Yeah. And so you've done some excellent work. You've let go of something that's very important. And now, once you let that go, you can immediately see the next layer that's underneath that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I and it never that never came up in the past, like clarity or like, wow.
Isn't it
Thank you.
fascinating? You never know what you're going to find.
It's amazing, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last thing that I want to check for is sense into it, Lewis. Have you ever identified with that belief of I am not capable?
I wouldn't say I have, like, because a lot of my upbringing was very much like being resilient, being hardworking, being, you know, tenacious. So I feel like that would be the opposite of I'm not capable.
Good, good. I always ask because oftentimes we end up identifying unconsciously with some of our
Mm,
limiting beliefs. And so we can identify with the story that we're not enough or not worthy or not capable. And that's why I always ask people to really sense into it for themselves. Have you ever identified with that? And you kind of intuitively know. In this case, your
mm.
answer is no and magnificent. That means that the process is complete.
All right, wonderful. Appreciate you.
Yeah, you bet.
Right
So, what
on
do you?
time too.
Yeah, exactly. I
Good
imagine you
stuff,
gotta
man.
dip in a couple of minutes, but I am curious before you go, what are you taking away from this experience?
Well, that last piece of like it truly is this idea of an onion where it's like there's layers and that first one might you might think like that's the big one. And it could be, but if you don't like explore it further, you won't really know. And so in this case, like we explored it and then we revealed something that I hadn't even really considered or thought about. Like I'm not clear or like this idea, this subconscious belief that I'm not clear for some reason, or like yeah. Um, so the takeaway is first, it's fascinating to see to see it in action, and number two, that it's actually pretty actionable. I can do something about that. I can
Right.
get clarity at any moment. It's just, now that I know it's there, it's just about asking like, is it more that I'm scared or is it more that I'm just not clear? Or is it more that I'm doubting myself or is it more that I'm just not clear? And coming back
Mm.
to that, and if it's just not clarity, okay, just get the clarity or figure out what are the missing pieces.
Exactly. And what's also really interesting is that my theory is that if you cleared the sense of I am not clear, then clarity wouldn't even be a question that enters into your mind. It's almost like when we have the belief, it's like a set of goggles over our eyes
Mm,
and we see everything through the lens. And I did for 20 years, the lens of I'm not good enough.
mm,
And so that
mm,
was the thought that was constantly happening. What if I'm not good enough? I can't do that because I'm not good enough. Da, da, da.
yeah,
And then when we just go, actually,
yeah, for
checkmate.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure, man. I get chills thinking about it, so it's definitely it hits home. It's powerful stuff.
Yeah, brother.
Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you too, man. Godspeed
Good
on your
stuff.
next call. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing your openness and authenticity with us.
No, thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, Gladius, a pleasure. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you too, man. Adios.
Bye.
I'm curious, what if anything are you guys taking away, or any questions, observations on the process? So Aubin, come off mute.
Yeah, there was a bit of resonance when you got to the clarity stuff. I mean, I think my biggest takeaway is similar to his from all the work we did this morning. It's like, oh, it's fascinating. It's just so interesting how the web is connected to itself, you know, and like how like, you know, our two parallel experiences this morning were producing wildly different belief statements, even though we were starting from the same subconscious experiencing them, right? So like, yeah, it's amazing how we all end up in the same or similar places, but the way that we get there is completely different.
Everyone's life story is very, very different, and yet we somehow end up with overlapping beliefs. So strange. Yeah.
I wonder how that, yeah, I mean, seems like a weird, I mean, to use a term of mine, seems like a weird quirk of the rainbow of human experience.
Hmm. Alfredo, any observations or takeaways for you?
Um, I really want there to be a GIF of you removing your glasses up and down.
Yeah.
That's the highlight. I'm like, is he gonna do it today? And you do it. I'm just like, yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's yeah, I get it. And another observation of what y'all are saying is that it is a theory, obviously, but like we resonate together, or we are close enough to talk because of our belief systems. So we're gonna have some overlapping belief systems,
Mm.
because we're having a conversation. If, in theory, if you were to talk to somebody like in China that has a whole different take on life, then they would have belief systems that resonate with their group they're talking to.
Yeah.
But again, it's kind of hard to prove that theory, because like as you're trying to prove it, you're only going to find people that resonate with your belief systems to try and prove.
I think that, yeah, there's something there about every belief carries an emotional energy, because the belief is like an intention that resonates at a specific frequency. And so the collective amalgamation of someone's belief systems is like the frequency that they emanate as a being. And then that's the frequency that they naturally attract into their life. And that's the frequency of the external circumstances that are reflected back to them, as well as the people and their relationships. And so it's all a function of the specific frequency, as Bashar calls it, the signature frequency of like the belief systems that you're holding in any given moment. It's a fascinating idea.
Yeah, and then you know, as you do the inner work, in theory, right? If this theory is at all correct, then as you do the inner work and let go of your anchors, in other words, in theory, healing is in the direction of rising frequency, essentially, right? As opposed to falling. And so then you can, or at least I've had this experience where, you know, people that I used to talk to, used to hang out with, used to connect with on a, you know, very daily basis are kind of no longer in my life, because I found new groups of people to connect with and new groups of humans to be on the journey with, and etc. And so if that is true, then maybe it's a reflection of, like, you know, rising frequency sort of attracting those unto which it is like itself, you know, and then other folks that were in other places of your journey, like, you know, 15 years ago when I was a burnt out, you know, 9 to 5er and hung out with a bunch of burnt out 9 to 5ers who all used to drink on the weekends, you know, I don't really do that so much anymore. So, you know, it's entirely possible that as we rise in frequency, we find new groups of people to resonate with.
Love that. Yeah. So now that Chris is here, what's up, Chris? Good to see you, my brother. I want to share a new sentence stem that I think has an extraordinary amount of potential to help clients figure out what their core limiting beliefs are, and for that matter, me, myself, and I. And so this is the same one, Aubin, that we were experimenting with earlier. So basically, here's the template format for it. I'll speak it out loud and then I'll drop it into the chat. In order to undesired circumstance, like me, someone would have to believe ... So let me go ahead and write that into the chat, and we'll talk about that and we'll unpack it a little bit more. So in order to undesired circumstance like me, someone would have to believe ... So here's an example. In order to feel fear when approaching a beautiful woman on the street like me, someone would have to believe ... In order to be broke and have less than $1,000 in my bank account like me, someone would have to believe ... In order to, you name the undesired circumstance, and then the magic phrase like me, which causes the person to not, the subconscious can no longer interpret it purely impersonally. It has to link back to the actual belief systems that apply to themselves. And then we still use the someone would have to believe, just like the Lefkoes did, in order to generalize it enough to where people's defense mechanisms don't get triggered. So I wonder, do we have a volunteer to try this sentence them and see if some powerful stuff comes up? Alfredo, what is a circumstance in your life that you would like to shift?
Hmm. Um, Something to do with coaching or something about being right. By the way, last week's clearing was really good. I really appreciate that one. It's just gone. So that was awesome.
Yeah,
having trouble pinpoint it. It's like being right.
Like you need to be right, or
it's in my reality, it seems to me that I would have to feel like what I'm saying is credible. And sometimes I can say like, oh yeah, well that's possible. So like anything's possible. So then I start thinking about doing like NLP workshops, and I'm like, oh shit, but how can I explain anchoring? Can I really do it? You know, or like, well, anybody could do it. And so something about
the actual circumstance or the problem statement is something like, I don't feel credible when I speak.
okay. Yeah.
Is that right?
Huh.
So let's turn that into the sentence stem. In order to not feel credible while they speak like me, someone would have to believe ...
And I finish it.
Yep.
It's all a lie.
I'm just writing down the stem and I'll write down the responses. So it's all a lie. And so go ahead and continue with it. In order to not feel credible while they speak like me, someone would have to believe dot dot dot.
Ooh, that it's hopeless.
Go on.
It's like a teenager angst over here. Interesting. Can you say that again?
In order to not feel credible when they speak like me, someone would have to believe.
That it's hopeless. That it's all for nothing. That it's all a joke. Jeez, I feel dark as I'm thinking about this. It's interesting. I feel dark. That comes out.
You want to keep
It
going?
doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean it.
Okay, that's it.
All for now.
Hmm.
So just notice that instantly we're able to get to it's all a lie, it's hopeless, it's all for nothing, it's all a joke. Discovering the sense of feeling dark, which is another belief. It's a layer of the onion. Um, and then it doesn't mean anything. So when you read all of those in the chat, I'm curious if any one stands out as most strongly charged to you.
Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. And just notice that that's the last one that came up.
Mm-hmm.
How interesting. So that might be core of the onion. What happens if you say out loud, it doesn't mean taco tits?
It doesn't mean taco tits. It's very interesting imagery.
What about it doesn't glean anything?
Doesn't glean anything. It's just nonsense.
It doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything. Oh man, it's like a pit in my stomach as I think it.
I wonder, Alfredo, if that's a belief that you'd like to keep or let go of.
I like to let go of that.
All right, cool. So, folks, we always process the belief first logically, then visually, then emotionally. And the first question that I love to ask is, Alfredo, just search within yourself. Is there any part of you that's not ready to let that go for any reason?
No.
Are you sure?
More like hesitance. Like slight hesitance, but ready to let it go.
Yeah. I wonder, you've practiced this approach before, and can you hold that hesitant part with love and just help it feel safe and open to letting go with you?
Seems to be a lot of anger around this part. It feels like a belief strategy I created, some eventuality. Like when I get frustrated, then I have this button that's like it just doesn't mean anything. It's fine. So it's
That's actually quite brilliant. We just acknowledge how clever that is. Like, this part actually had a unconscious competence over your ability to decide what things mean and what things don't mean. And it created a belief in order to remind you that whatever is frustrating you doesn't intrinsically mean anything, so that you wouldn't have to feel whatever pain or frustration or sadness that you were feeling in the moment.
Mhm.
You really love and respect that. And can this part of you see now that you are actively taking control of your meaning making muscles, and you have learned how to let go of limiting beliefs? You've learned how to let go of meaning.
Yeah.
With that in mind, I wonder if this part can also see that having an anger and fear based belief called "it doesn't mean anything" is not the ideal strategy anymore. Now you have the ability to just choose what the experience means to you in the moment. And so it might be actually healthier and safer for your overall mental, emotional well being to let that go.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, is this part open to letting it go?
Yes.
Cool. And just think it. That again is really brilliant, really clever. We love the part for creating that strategy. And whenever that feels complete, just let me know.
Feels complete.
Yeah. Man, I'm just like loving and respecting people's parts today. These strategies are genius. All right. So now do you feel open to letting go?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I'm I have like anger. I'm just like in anger right now.
Yeah, there's just anger present. Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Well, anger's welcome to be here. And if it ever wants to speak up and contribute to the conversation or let you know something, it's totally cool. Um, Great. So what's the next question I'm going to ask you, Alfredo?
Right. So does this energy really mean?
You can skip to the emotional sense step.
Oh, the
I
image.
Yeah, I personally go logic, visual, emotion.
Right. Okay. Sure. Let's do image.
Yeah. So what's the magic question?
So have I ever seen it doesn't mean anything?
Mhm.
It's just a bunch of images and happenings. Doesn't actually mean it doesn't mean anything.
Isn't that ironic?
Mhm.
It doesn't mean it
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything. That's
Wow.
great.
Uh,
We're getting meta today.
yeah. So the images, does this mean it doesn't mean anything? No, are you sure? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Really love and respect that in your practice, you always ask yourself, are you sure, to be sure? Because that's exactly what we just did with the logical sense step when that part came up. That's exactly why I asked, are you sure?
Mhm.
And we found that, like, actually, no, there's some hesitancy, and we processed it. And so, yeah, that question that you just asked yourself, are you sure? That's a really important question, and good job. Okay. So are there any images in your mind that are tied to it doesn't mean anything?
Um, you think of images when they come up. Um, it's like moments of anger.
Yeah.
So nothing specific. It's just kind of like a bunch of images.
Yeah. The real the real important thing is that none of those images feel tied to the meaning. It doesn't mean anything. That's the only
Right.
thing that's actually important.
Hmm.
And so you're there.
Hmm.
Great. So now, what's the next magic question?
Thought we did this. Do these images mean? Does it mean anything?
Oh, I thought we were moving to the emotion.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
thought. So,
great.
have I ever felt it doesn't mean anything? Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Anger.
So bring your attention to that anger.
Yeah.
Let me know you're with it.
Yeah.
So now, what do you ask yourself to dispel that belief from that anger?
Right. So, does this energy mean it doesn't mean anything? No. No, you sure? Yes.
Yeah, good. Excellent. And search within yourself. Is there any other emotion, any other sensation still tied to it doesn't mean anything?
Mm, yes.
So connect with it. What does it feel like and where in your body?
It's just that pit feeling in my stomach.
Yeah. Just be with that pit in the stomach. And just ask yourself, does this sensation mean it doesn't mean anything?
No.
You sure?
Yes.
Oh, cool. So now I invite you to try the command approach to searching for energy. We've been using the question approach and the to find that feeling. So I invite you to say to your subconscious, show all energy tied to the belief it doesn't mean anything.
Show all energy tied to the belief it doesn't mean anything. Okay.
Does this energy mean it doesn't mean anything?
No.
Sure.
Yes.
Sweet. When you used that command, what did you notice?
The best way I could put it is that it feels like the husk of of the orange, right? Like in the beginning, there's a really big juicy orange, and then you
Hmm.
clear the inner part, and then you're left with this husk, which then you clear the husk.
Got it. Yeah. So I like to call that like the energetic residue,
Yeah.
right? The husk. So excellent. And so now feel into it, Alfredo. Have you ever identified with that belief?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Would you like to disidentify with that belief?
Yes.
I invite you to declare out loud, I now choose to disidentify from the belief it doesn't mean anything.
I now choose to disidentify with a belief that it doesn't mean anything.
What do you notice?
Calm.
Yeah, great. And are you identified with it now?
I don't know. Do you feel like a wave energy here just kind of went through when I was Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. You can usually just sense whether or not you're identified with it. Just like you were immediately like, yep, 100%, totally identified with it.
Right.
This is a newer exploration for me using this simple disidentification intention. So in this present moment, it's
I'm
just
just
question
curious
mark.
as to what came up here for me. Like, felt like anger, but I'm not sure from what.
Every time that I use the disidentification step, I notice emotion and sensation course through my body. It's like another layer of energetic release.
Okay.
Yeah. So now what happens when you say out loud, it doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything. It's dull for sure.
Something still there?
Doesn't a little bit, yeah. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. Like I feel here.
Yeah. Well, the simple approach would be to place your attention on that energy
Right, right.
and go ahead and dispel it. And I invite you to do so.
So okay.
And now what happens when you say it?
It doesn't mean anything. I'm good. Feels good. Yeah.
Way to go. Excellent. Well done, brother.
It's
That
a little
was,
confusing.
yeah, that's an interesting belief. I get the purpose of it. I get the intention behind it.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So open floor for any observations or takeaways from it. Chris, since you're here, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. What's up, guys, by the way?
Yo.
There's a lot of cool stuff in there, right? Like for me, like this is my personal observation about anger. Anger is typically an emotion that I've seen associated with like feeling like we didn't have a choice at some point, whether to like authentically express, authentically feel, right? So what came up there makes sense to me. Because like, oh, it just doesn't mean anything, like, which is like basically like a gaslighting. Like it's like, yeah, it doesn't mean anything that I'm feeling this. Doesn't mean anything that I'm feeling, XYZ or thinking this, or just kind of swiping under the rug. So that was cool to see because the anger wanted to keep coming like up, right? Like it's like just wanted to go and destroy.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, powerful reflection. Thank you. Robin, I saw you come off mute.
Well, I was just gonna say that one was really interesting for me because of how meta it was. In other words, the not meaning anything is the defense mechanism for not meaning anything. It was so much fun to like to deconstruct the extra layer of that. Like I don't know, that was kind of beautiful to witness. And like you said, like I understand exactly why it was created at the time that it was created. But then when we master these processes, it's no longer necessary and we can let it go.
Right. Yeah, this is a really cool principle of like, I'm going to try to condense this into words. I've seen this happen many, many times with more than just this particular belief or spelling. If something is true, you don't need a belief in order to reinforce it. You don't need a psycho emotional construct that operates as a limiting filter over your eyes that causes nervous system dysregulation and tension in your body in order to acknowledge it doesn't mean anything. Or in many other cases, there's tons of other examples. I want to like think to one. Come on, one. Struggling to come up with one, but you'll find this if you do this enough, and you'll find these within yourself as well. One that I strongly identified with, actually, now this is coming to mind, is the belief I am good at everything. I totally believe that. More than a year and a half after starting belief work, I found that belief within myself, and I'm like, I'm keeping that. I like that. That's me. And that was originally created in order to counter I'm not good enough. And I had the experience all throughout my life of whenever I would try to do something, I'd learn it really quickly and I would become really good at it really fast just because of just how my brain works. I just learn stuff fast. But eventually I decided like I don't need a belief called I am good at everything in order to learn stuff fast. I actually don't need to believe that about myself. That's just something that in some way, shape, or form probably limits me. So eventually I decided to let that go.
Yeah, my observation of that reason why I was a little confused for a second was that I was rationalizing to myself. I was like, okay, it doesn't mean anything. I was like, what's the opposite? Everything means everything. I don't know, it doesn't mean anything. But then I noticed that the emotion wasn't there anymore. The story that I created with that meaning. And
Yeah.
so then
Bingo.
it doesn't mean anything, but I don't have to like prove it to myself with a story and a belief.
Totally. That's it. That's the distinction. Chris, I wonder if you're open to trying out this new sentence stem.
I'm in.
All right, heaven, yes. So, what's a circumstance in life? It could be internal, it could be relationship, it could be literally anything you can imagine. What's a circumstance in life that you'd like to shift?
There's a couple I can think of, but let's go with depression, like kind of on and off depression, like we've talked about before.
So, in order to experience on and off depression like me, comma, someone would have to believe.
First thing that comes to mind is that they have depression, that there's something wrong with them. Like something that comes up is nothing seems to work. There's like I don't know the wording quite. It's like a sense of like kind of like hopeless, kind of helpless, and then like impossible, kind of all melded in there.
Yeah. In order to experience on and off depression like me, someone would have to believe.
There's something wrong with them. Comes up again. Keeps like freaking pinging in there. All right, so I think this okay. This is what comes to mind. you can tell me what you think, is I think the wording of the first part I might want to change.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? Like the on and off part. It seems more like, I don't know, if like almost like unresolvable. Seems more like it, like, because like I've done a lot of things in the past and it seems unresolvable.
It seems unresolvable. Okay. So, in order for depression to seem unresolvable like it does for me, someone would have to believe.
Kind of like it's kind of like they haven't found the right thing yet, or they haven't done the right thing, right? Um, yeah, it seems a lot like that. I can't get anything else, but when I said that one, like not doing the right thing, it seems a lot like tied to that, right?
Bingo. Okay.
Because yeah, because it's like it's literally like, okay, I've done all these things, right? So I'm gonna go do some more things, and it's like no matter what I do, it seems that nothing really works, or it works temporary, right? So and then my mind is like, yeah, I must have not done the right thing yet, because in my mind there's like there's a thing that will solve it, right?
Mm.
Like in there, it's just like, okay, well, if I haven't solved it yet, it just means I haven't come upon that thing, right?
So, Chris,
Although
finish the thought,
I
and
was
then I have some questions.
okay, I said although I would say like part of me, I've thought about this, is like have I actually fully enveloped myself in the processes I've already gone through to actually solve it, right? So there's that thought that comes in there too.
Makes total sense. Okay. I have a few thoughts.
Yeah.
So let's just start with the obvious. What happens if you say, I haven't done the right thing?
I haven't done the right thing. There's a little bit of sense of sensation in my chest and throat.
There's a right thing that'll fix me.
There's a right thing that will fix me. Not so much, maybe a little hint of sensation in similar areas, but it's more like like in my mind, like a yes.
Yes. Yeah. So logical sense, like that's just a fact.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. How would you say that in your own words to have it make even more sense?
Which part?
There's a right thing that'll fix me.
It's kind of like there's it's like there's the right thing to do that will solve my problems.
There's a right thing to do that'll solve my problems. Does that make more sense when you say it?
Yeah, it's like there's like a conflict there. There's like, so part of me, there's a sense of that. It makes sense. And then the other parts, like the conflicting parts, like, oh well, yeah, you tried all this stuff. You've done all this stuff. Like, so it's like kind of coming against that idea.
So I've tried it all before. I've done it all. Something along those lines.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like, nothing I do ever works.
Had that intuition
Which,
earlier.
yeah, which is interesting, because like I can collect evidence in my mind about lots of things that work, but that sense is still there, right?
Yeah. So nothing I do ever works. But I haven't found the right thing.
I will say this too, because this comes up, is
Yeah.
this applies. It's interesting because this applies like to how I feel in my business at times. right? Like with like the whole thing, like marketing, selling, producing things. Like I've done lots of awesome things, but then part of me still feels that sense in there. And it's interesting because a lot of times, like if I'm in this more depressed state, it actually makes me not want to execute my business as much, right? Which is the ironic part about all of that stuff.
Totally makes sense. So just looking at the list. What about the classic I have depression?
I have depression. I have depression. I don't get much of that. Maybe weirdly enough, like maybe a little relaxation of the other tension.
Relaxing sensation.
Yeah, it's like a warmth.
That's really important. Yeah, because I could see that just intuitively based on the sensation that's tied to it. Maybe that's a strategy for comfort.
Yeah.
Does it change at all? Is there any resonance with I am depressed?
I am depressed. Yeah, a little bit. It's very faint. Maybe a little sense in my throat of something going on.
Yeah.
Part of me wants to be like with that, like, no, I'm not.
Right. No, gosh. Don't look
Forget
behind the
that.
curtain. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. No, this is great. And then this is Lion Goodman's favorite one to look out for. There's something wrong with me.
Yeah. There's something wrong with me. Something wrong with me. I don't get too much with that.
Have an intuitive switch up version. Is there any sense of I have a problem or I have problems?
I have a problem. Yes, I feel that one through here.
It's fascinating.
That actually feels more intense. And
Right, because
then
sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
I would say you said I have problems. Was the other one? I have problems.
I have problems.
I have problems. No, you know what's interesting? Weirdly enough, like I have a problem is much more strong than like even saying like I have problems. It's almost like I have a problem. Like it's like this the sense of like it's almost like this monumental, like huge thing. Which is weird since it's singular versus plural in that context, right?
That's so fascinating. So yeah, I had that intuition because the spelling that made the most sense to you earlier was there's a right thing to do that will solve my problems. So that's why I wanted to play with that. I have a problem. I have problems. To your point, it's really interesting that the singular makes it make more sense. But
Can I share something with you real quick?
yeah,
That
please.
maybe interesting. So I wrote a post earlier today about a client, right? I think
I
you might
read
have seen
that.
it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right. And so this is gonna be what's really fascinating. So like
Yeah.
I cleared that up for that client. It was great. And then I was like, there's a sense I got with myself. I was like, oh, there's something here. There's something here for me, right? Interestingly enough. So I wanted to put that out there because that was fascinating.
Right. That happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Like with Abed and I today, literally
Yeah.
working with each other and yep, got that one. All right, cut ties. Okay. So what are you becoming more aware of through this exploration?
So there's a mix. I'll share it. So like I feel a more distinct tension right through this area, like the chest up into the neck. There's a sense of like excitement in a sense, right? Like it's like, oh, like we're getting to the bottom of this. right? So there's like that sense there. Let's see what else. And then there's a part, like I can sense a part, another part, but it's kind of like almost dissociated, like I know it's there, right? But it's kind of like fuzzy and kind of dissociated over there, like so I don't know what it is, but I have the sense of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, you just send that part some love and appreciation for showing up and seeking to protect you in whatever way that it is. And speaking of getting to the core, I wonder if you'd be open to journeying a little bit deeper with some what's underneath that, and see if we can find some other stuff.
Absolutely.
Seems like the strongest one is I have a problem.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead and
Yeah.
say it, tap into that and feel it.
I have a problem. Yeah. So yeah, what's interesting with that one is like, so I felt that I was like, oh, at first I was like, oh, I feel some of it, not much, but then part of me I was noticing wants to like push it
Push it
down.
away.
Like, yeah, it's like I don't want to feel all of whatever that is. So even now, like as I'm talking about it, it's still there, but it's like it came up and then it was like, no,
Mhm.
right? Like, no. Let's put that back. Let's put the genie back in the bottle.
So, Chris, I've just send some love and appreciation to the part of you that is protecting you from feeling that feeling, and just share with it that we're not poking the bear, so to speak, so that it's going to stay there forever. We're really just trying to understand the core of what this belief system is so that we can let it go and actually be free from this pain. With that in mind, I wonder if the part is open to just stepping back and observing.
Yeah,
Excellent. Thank you, part. So how does it feel to say, I have a problem?
I have a problem. So the first words that come into my mind, I don't feel it as much, but the first thing that comes to my mind is like sad, and then angry. I'm not feeling too much of it either, but those are the things that came up immediately.
Yeah, so focus on that sad and angry energy. Let me know when you're with it. Just get curious towards it and ask it, what other beliefs are you tied to?
What other beliefs are you tied to? It's kind of like fear of rejection. The first words that come up.
Hmm.
What beliefs are you tied to? I don't have what it takes. That's interesting. Something wrong with my body. My body won't do what I want it to do. I'm broken. Nothing I do matters. It's kind of like, yeah, nothing I do matters. Like, it won't change anyway. Kind of came up after that. No matter what I do, it's never enough. Others are better than me. I'm a fraud. I'm pathetic. No one will love me for me. I just can't do it. Nothing really matters. I don't matter. What's the point? This is pointless, or it's all just pointless. Like, I don't know enough, or like, I don't know anything. Others know more than me. What I do doesn't matter. Yeah, I think that's at the bottom for now.
Feels
Well,
like the
my
bottom.
5-year-old. My 5-year-old real quick. Hold on.
Yep. It's very powerful.
Yeah,
He's all
that
good.
was a lot. Yeah, should be.
Okay. Okay. That was a lot. It makes sense that there would be a paradigm of depression when there's a lot of beliefs in place that make things not matter. I had a girlfriend before belief work, and just like through conversation, we've bumped into a core belief of I don't matter, nothing matters. And like that was like the central linchpin of it for her. Um, so I don't matter what's the point. This is pointless. It's all just
Mm-hmm.
pointless, right? Um, there's definitely a lot in there, and I really respect and acknowledge your authenticity in going that deep and sharing all of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. What do you want to do with all this?
I'd like to clear it up.
Do you want to have a separate conversation?
We can.
Yeah. I'd love that. Because this ends in 8 minutes. Yeah. Cool. I'll be in touch.
All right, man. Sounds good.
This is going into some commentary. This is a really, really cool example of like, if you just focus on the sensation and remain curious, you'll find everything that you need to find. It's all there. And you just kept going, going and going and going. In between, were you asking yourself like what's underneath that?
At some point, yeah.
Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. And that's why you said at the bottom, you're like, this feels like the bottom.
Yeah, I think I didn't do it every single question because like a few of them flowed, but when I felt like it kind of drop off a little bit, I'd be like, oh, okay, like I'd insert that in there, like what's underneath that.
Awesome. Wow. What are you guys all taking away from that experience, observations and reflections, including you, Chris, if you have any?
Yeah, you know, it's always powerful. This is the thing, is like it's always powerful working with someone else because like I do this stuff all day long, right? Deep somatic type work. And but for some of the things, right, it's just so much easier being with another person in that
Totally.
space to let it come up. So that's always a huge thing.
Yeah. I've gotta come up with like some name for that phenomenon, like the divine mirror principle. You see yourself more deeply when you're staring at a mirror.
Yeah, and I mean, and it goes to the thing of why we all do this work, right? Like because like people need us, like we need each
100%.
other, right? Like
100%. Yeah.
so.
Goodness. Yeah, like the number of things that I was able to discover within myself just through working with my clients, let alone the other like coaches and people that I've hired and worked with. It's always really fucking astonishing how there's this like synchronicity of I always have at least one client that's like consistently helping me see more belief systems within myself.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's a bi-directional, like in a session, like someone described it as like getting into a mastermind, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, which is definitely true. There's a joining up, right? It's a bi-directional thing, which is cool.
Yeah. So we have 5 minutes and I've got another call that I want to spend a minute preparing for. So a little bit less. Alfredo, Oppen, any final takeaways from this training?
I was just impressed with Chris's ability to like spit out his entire belief system. Basically, I was like, wow.
It's a skill.
Yeah. Good one to have. Amazing. Anything else?
Yeah, I would say I found when I found like in that space of like support, it's not all the time, but usually it's like it makes it much much easier. Like it's just allowing myself to be there, right? It just makes all the difference.
What type of work do you do, Chris?
So I do I do subconscious work basically, but I'm primarily body focused. So I use a lot of somatic things interwoven in there. But I kind of
Right.
like my work is all about like kind of alignment, I would say, of like the conscious, subconscious, and we could call it like core essence. Right. So I'm getting someone just aligned into their being. Right. So
That
they can
sounds awesome. I'm gonna have to look you up in the Sovereign Mind group and connect because that sounds like my jam.
All right, man. Connect with me. I'd love it. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Check out Facebook too.
All right. I will definitely look you up. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ben.
Amazing work.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
All right. We will wrap the recording there. Thank you all. God bless. Godspeed and namaste.